This video tutorial is for BOA 302. Today we're going to ramp it up a little bit. You're going to see some problems that you've seen before in the past, like in BOA 301, but now we're going to add another step to the problem. Okay, so here's our first focus question. It says, what is 75 more than 20% of 300? So really what I have to do is break this down into two different parts. I have to first figure out what is 20% of 300, and then here it says what is 75 more than that. So I want to add 75 to whatever is 20% of 300. Okay, so let's start on this portion that I have underlined here, 20% of 300. So remember, we're going to just put it right into an equation. What means x, is means equals, 20% is going to be written as 0.20, of means to multiply, and then 300. So we get the number 0.2 times 300, and when we calculate that, we get 60. So we have x equaling 60. Now, I want to know, though, what is 75 more than this number? So 75 more than that number is going to be 75 plus the 60 to give me a total of 135. So my total here is 135 because I want to take into account that I'm adding 75 more to this number, 20% of 300. All right? Now I'd like you to try number 2 on your own. Number 2 is asking for 33 less than this particular number. So in other words, you need to subtract the 33 here. So that's my hint for number 2. Now in number 3, another two-step problem, it says find 6/8 of the quotient of 105. So we're going to find 6/8 of this number here. Okay, what is the quotient of 105? That's our first question we need to answer. So what is the quotient of 105? 100 divided by 5 would give me the quotient 20. So 20 is my quotient, and now I want to find what is 6/8 of 20. Now 6/8 is a fraction. We're going to keep it as a fraction, and I can also change that to a reduced fraction of 3/4. Of means to multiply, and then 20. I can put that right into my calculator. Remember to punch that in and make sure that you have 3/4 in parentheses. You should end up with 15. So 6/8 of 20, which is the same as 3/4 of 20, ends up giving me 15. I would like you guys to try number 4, very, very similar to our setup in number 3. Okay, next question. 1/2 of 18 is what percent of 90? So let's figure out what 1/2 of 18 is first. Okay, 1/2 of 18 is 9. Now it's asking 9 is what percent of 90? Okay, so I'm just basically taking bits and pieces of the sentence, translating it into another math expression, and then from here I'm going to translate it one more time. So the first thing I wanted to do was just find 1/2 of 18. Half of 18 means you're going to take 1/2, multiply by 18, and that's why I get 9. You can also think of it as just, what's half of 18? So you should be able to tell me too that half of 18 is 9, but that's the mathematical reason for why it's 9. Now, let's change this into another math sentence here. 9 is means equals what percent is going to be x, of means multiply, and then 90. Now let's solve for x. Remember, to undo what's happening to x is being multiplied by 90. So to undo that, I need to divide by 90. We're going to divide by 90 on both sides so that we get 9 over 90, which is going to give me 0.1. So 0.1 equals x. Now, remember the original question, though, is what percent of that is. So what percent? We need to change that, just like we've been doing in the past, by moving that decimal 2 spots to the right. So we're going to move that decimal 2 spots to the right. We're going to add a 0 here. Whenever there's a placeholder, you can add a 0. So you have 10%. Okay? Right, now number 6 is something you're going to try on your own. It's very similar to number 5, so just replay something if anything's confusing. Next question is a question in context with a word problem. It says Mary's paycheck this month is $1,500. A third of her money goes to paying for her rent and another $150 to pay for her utilities. How much of her paycheck will she have left? So we make sure that we want to answer this final question. How much would she have left? All right, so let's start with what she has. She starts with a total of $1,500. Now, of that $1,500, it says that a third of her money goes to paying her rent. Okay, a third of her money goes to paying her rent. It's good to highlight or underline that. Okay, so just take it piece by piece, and we'll start here. So a third of her money goes to paying her rent, meaning we're going to take 1/3 of $1,500. We're going to multiply 1/3 times $1,500 because we're finding 1/3 of $1,500. Okay, so that ends up being $500. So she's spending right now $500 on rent. Then it says she adds another $150 to pay for utilities. So we need to add the $150 for her utilities, which gives me now a total of $650. So altogether, she's paid out $650. So we need to take this amount from her original $1,500. We are going to now subtract the $650 that she has to pay for both rent and utilities. So that'll leave me with a total of $850 left over. So she has $850 to spend, however she pleases. So she has $850 left. I always want you to answer a word problem with a sentence, okay? A very brief sentence here. She has $850 left. Okay, question 8 is a you try question. Very, very similar again to problem number 7. So replay something if you're not quite sure about something, and then you can ask me questions when you check it in. Next question, number 9. It says Carl answered 75% of 64 questions on his math test correctly. How many questions did he get wrong? So again, we want to make sure we answer the original question. Eventually, we're going to answer how many questions he got wrong. Let's start with what we know, though. He answered 75% of 64 correctly. So we want to know how many did he get correct. It's the first thing we want to ask ourselves. How many did he get correct? Okay, so we're going to take 75% of 64. We want to know what is 75% of 64. That will tell us how many he got right. So let's convert this into a math equation. Remember, what means x, is means equals. 75% will convert to a decimal by taking 0.75. Of means to multiply, and then 64. So you can punch that right into your calculator, and you should get an answer of 48. So we have x equals 48. So he got 48 questions correct. Now, the original problem says how many questions did he get wrong? Okay, I want to know how many he got wrong. So we're going to take the original 64, and we will subtract the number that he got right. So this is the number of questions he answered correctly. And if we subtract those two numbers, we're going to get a total of 16. So he got 16 problems wrong. Okay. Okay, the last question here is number 10. It's very similar to question number 9. I would like you guys to try all of these questions and then make sure you get them checked with me before you move on to skill sheets 1 and 2 and then onto the critical thinking packet. All right, nice job. Get to work.